Hello everyone, welcome to Developmental Bibliotherapy, using young adult fiction to help teens navigate adolescence. My name is Judith Wakeman. I am a teacher of mathematics, earth science and information technology. In 2004 I graduated as a teacher librarian, and in 2018, with my interest in bibliotherapy and youth mental health first aid, I started to look into developmental bibliotherapy, using young adult fiction to help teens navigate adolescence. Developmental bibliotherapy programs are simple, easy and cost-effective, with staff and resources already in most schools. The evidence is clear that reading fiction can mitigate the effects of mental illness in young people as a preventative strategy, and yet the programs that provide these benefits are being dismantled, with staff and funding removed in favour of programs providing care for students after the effects of mental illness have taken their toll. I hope you will use this evidence to support your campaign for ongoing developmental bibliotherapy programs in schools. In this session, we'll be having a look at definitions, how and why stories promote well-being, the current trends in young adult fictions, what are they reading? Developmental bibliotherapy in the classroom, how to implement it. What's special about teacher librarians? And I'll provide you with some resources and places to go for further reading. The key takeaways will be knowledge and information, conversation starters and solid arguments, evidence, research, reading and resources, and affirmation and advocacy. You can find most of what I cover on the website, so you don't need to be taking notes. Bibliotherapy is about using books in the healing process. It is a new term for an old practice. It is about booksellers, librarians, counsellors, friends, family, or even yourself, using fiction, non-fiction, or poetry. It is available for all ages, from helping young people cope with starting school to helping the rehabilitation of offenders in prison or helping someone come to terms with retirement. And it can be part of a structured course or can happen during a casual conversation or while sitting reading under a tree. Bibliotherapy can help to foster resilience, change perspective, validate experiences, and confront anxiety. Before I go much further, I must acknowledge that bibliotherapy is not a panacea. It is most effective when combined with other treatments. So this session is confined to developmental bibliotherapy, using young adult fiction as a preventative strategy. Developmental bibliotherapy is simply guided reading programs conducted by trusted adults, such as the teacher librarian, classroom teachers, but also trusted and respected authors, during informal class time or library visits, and using young adult fiction. Its purpose is to help teens navigate adolescence by providing authentic role models, insight and guidance, and information and understanding, designed to promote and nurture well-being. Developmental bibliotherapy occurs when a young person realizes that a positive change has taken place in their thoughts, feelings, actions, or beliefs. There are 4 ways that reading stories can help promote well-being: by activating the default mode network, by cultivating core confidence, by reframing eco-anxiety, and by demystifying mental illness. The default mode network is a network of interacting brain regions active when we are occupied in non-task related thought. It is active during REM, while daydreaming, and while reading. The default mode network is responsible for all the processes that make us who we are as individuals and as members of society. It is in a constant performance feedback revision loop. It is responsible for our personal narrative, autobiographical memories, memories of facts and events about ourselves, our knowledge of our personal traits and emotions, our strengths and weaknesses. It is responsible for developing a theory of mind, empathy, moral reasoning, interpreting social information, including stereotypes and social cues, modifying our behavior to suit different social situations. It is responsible for forming memories, filing, recalling and applying memories, imagining the future and comprehending narratives. It is responsible for applying intuition and insight, the aha moments, spontaneous thought, enabling snap decisions when facing unexpected situations, creativity and confidence in problem solving, and lateral thinking. It is responsible for adopting vicarious learning, core confidence and emotional resilience, interpreting simulations and making predictions. And it helps us make sense of the world, assimilating new ideas, interpreting narratives, creating order from chaos, identifying patterns and logical thought processes. Reading activates the default mode network because the default mode network is active when we are thinking about ourselves or thinking about others, when we are reflecting on the past or planning for the future, and when we are interacting in social contexts, even when we are experiencing these actives vicariously. Cultivating core confidence, hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. Alexander Stajkovic defined core confidence as an amalgam of hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism, where hope is about having realistic goals and manageable pathways. Hope keeps us going when faced with adversity. Miriam Margolyes says hope is what gets us out of bed in the morning. Stories help us to visualize our dreams and identify our values, which helps us set our goals. Then, as we visualize goals and the pathways to reach those goals, hope helps us become flexible and adaptable and shows us how setbacks and detours are challenges to overcome. Efficacy is a belief in our ability to create change. Efficacy influences the goals we choose because it determines our level of confidence when we are learning new things. Efficacy is cultivated through mastery, but also through vicarious experience. And as our self-efficacy develops, we move into a growth mindset. Resilience is our ability to recover from setbacks and take responsibility for creating the future we want. Resilience involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions. Reading about resilient individuals shows us that resilience can be learned and developed. Resilient individuals are open to new views and experiences, can articulate their feelings, their needs, and their viewpoints. They are curious, reflective, mindful, and they derive meaning from failure, and they seek out ways to bolster their own well-being. And optimism. A realistic belief in a bright future. A belief that we are responsible for our own happiness and that more good things will continue to happen to us in the future. Literature rejuvenates our optimism by combating negative influences, clarifying our focus, and by presenting alternative ideas. Reading about ordinary people achieving extraordinary successes or performing extraordinary deeds makes us realize that the brain is flexible and adaptable, that intelligence and confidence can be developed, and we start to develop a growth mindset where we believe that our basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work, and we embrace a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. A word of caution. We need to be realistic. Too much hope can anesthetize us, keeping us passive when we should act. Too much self-efficacy can breed arrogance, where we neglect our training or believe we have nothing left to learn or even reject new ideas and suggestions. Too much resilience can make us overly tolerant of adversity or resigned and apathetic in the face of danger. And too much optimism can shroud us in illusions and irrational beliefs, or cause us to waste energy on unattainable goals. But too much is better than too little. Reframing eco-anxiety. If I were to use one word to describe how I believe young people feel towards climate action and change today, it would be anxiety. From Patrick Webster, aged 18. Eco-anxiety is a chronic fear of environmental doom. It can also be called climate anxiety, solastalgia, ecological grief, or even pre-traumatic stress. There are no statistics on the incidence of eco-anxiety across the globe. In fact, it is not a mental condition in itself. It can affect anyone, regardless of age, education, agency, spatial or temporal proximity, and it can manifest in many ways. The impact of eco-anxiety has yet to be acknowledged in traditional scientific education or economic frameworks. Young people are most vulnerable to eco-anxiety. They are likely to experience the most effects of climate change. They are powerless, angry, and frustrated at the inaction of those in power. And in the event of a natural disaster, their social networks will be first to feel affected and most severely affected. Their personal values, coping mechanisms, and inner resources are not well developed. They are more likely to experience unreasonable guilt, grief, trauma, and fear. And they are less able to articulate their need for help or information. But also, their trusted go-to people may not be available, they may not be reachable, they might be otherwise occupied. Eco-anxiety in the face of climate change is considered to be a valid, rational, and appropriate response. The coping mechanisms of fight, flight, and freeze are similar to other anxieties. However, fight or action is considered the only adaptive or healthy response to climate change, because climate change is a very real and existential threat, because action is not matching the scale and urgency of that threat, and because ignoring climate change will not make it go away. So activism, where hope rules. In the context of eco-anxiety, action encourages conversations and connectedness, resilience, self-efficacy, hope and optimism, validation, trust, sharing of information, empowerment, outward thinking, awareness of broader issues, and above all, hope. Hope is the antidote to despair. But where do we draw the line between responsible education and alarmism? And how can Cli-Fi inspire young people to embrace the fight response to eco-anxiety? Cli-Fi can replace gloomy predictions with stories that inspire and motivate, can explain scientific concepts in simple terms, can demonstrate how small steps can make a difference, can challenge the beliefs that nothing can be done and the future is fixed, can pose questions and present answers to stimulate curiosity and discussion, and can address fears, build emotional resilience, and deliver messages of hope. All to help young people move from the maladaptive eco-anxiety responses of freeze or flight into the adaptive fight response. Many young people have climate anxiety, which is why education is important in enabling them to see the opportunities and not just the gloomy prospects for the future. From Ursula Munster. It ought to be easy to go crazy during adolescence, says Joseph Gold. And Alice Fraser, an Australian comedian, says, how do we know if it's a coming-of-age thing or a disaster thing? Because many of the symptoms of mental illness are similar to the aspects of typical adolescent development. Teen mental health is a major concern for 70% of young people in the USA. 1 in 7 young Australians will have developed or experienced a mental illness in any given year. 25% of mental health issues first present during adolescence, but teens rarely discuss mental health issues with their peers. Early intervention can mitigate the disruption caused by mental illness. Stigmas, stereotypes, missing or misinformation are barriers to early intervention. So stories can help foster well-being by addressing those stigmas and stereotypes, providing missing or misinformation and enabling conversation. What's special about stories? Stories inspire us to improve. They validate our experiences. They encourage us to explore. They reframe our problems, reflect us on our journey, empower us to act and speak, stimulate curiosity and discussion. They can be shared or kept private. They don't make judgments. They engage our emotions, and they make us feel normal. Stories teach us ancient wisdom, language, literacy, compassion, empathy, emotional resilience. They teach us that failure is okay, and they teach us vicariously. Stories give us role models and fallible heroes, questions, answers, comfort and company. And they help us define our goals, celebrate others' successes, create order out of chaos, appreciate diversity, create distance and perspective, identify our values, develop our social skills, accept our past, and face our future. Without stories, how would we teach these things? We are the story species, says Joseph Gold. Humans are the only animals that have the ability to communicate through time and space. It is thought that storytelling originated when the earliest campfires extended the day beyond sundown. So what is trending in young adult fiction? Stories about authentic role models and fallible heroes. Stories about autonomy and independence, but with trusted adults as safety nets. Stories with adventure and excitement, consistency and honesty, with information, answers, guidance and hope, but without being overly didactic. Stories about community, but at the same time confirmation and validation of themselves as individuals. Stories that provide a wider view of normal, but enable them to feel normal. And stories that provide hope for the future. Stories that include epic journeys and quests, horror, sadness, and increasingly dystopian worlds, including climate fiction, worlds without adults, open-ended storylines, activism and social justice, realistic, controversial and confronting topics, including mental illness and increasing diversity. Trusted authors are an important part of developmental bibliotherapy. They are valued for their honesty and authenticity and their genuine care and sense of responsibility for their young readers. A selection of trusted authors writing about mental health and well-being. And this particular group of authors writing about eating disorders and self-harm. A selection of Cli-Fi authors. Some of these are more suitable for senior classes because Cli-Fi can be a difficult topic. Implementing developmental bibliotherapy in the classroom. It is easy and intuitive, and you might already be doing it. To implement developmental bibliotherapy, you need quality age-appropriate stories, novels, biographies, graphic novels, or short stories are all appropriate. Trusted adults, the teacher librarian, and the classroom teacher ideally. And you need class time and commitment. You need to identify and introduce a set of character attributes and strengths that you want to explore. For these, you might look at Stajkovic's core confidence, but you could also look at Seligman's 24 signature strengths, Character Lab, the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, or develop your own list. And there's a suggestion of some of the strengths that you could adopt. The core elements are that each student must be able to talk about a suitable story, that facilitators continually stimulate discussion with individuals and or groups, that discussion and follow-up activities are designed to promote self-reflection, and that the activities and discussion reinforce the language related to the character attributes and strengths. Facilitating discussion is really about asking questions. General questions: are you enjoying your book? What is it about? Who is the main character to start with? And then some questions to promote self-reflection. Some of these questions I've put together in a list in the Activities and Printables page on the Read for Life website. Follow-up activities designed to promote discussion and reflection about character attributes and strengths. Literature circles are a perfect opportunity for this type of activity, but you can also look at book reviews, shelf talkers, quick book talks, art activities, maps, characters, events, quotes even. Look at technology, creating book trailers or posters. You can incorporate creative writing, including fan fiction, alternative endings. Look at different characters, analyze characters' decisions. You can create role-playing drama, enacting trials, imagining conversations. You can incorporate book week. Which book character are you? Or there are other activities that you can have a look at, especially in pledges promote reading and adapt. If you're going to do some in-depth discussion, for example with book club students, remember that you might need to do a debrief. What will success look like? You should see more core confidence, more hope, efficacy, resilience and optimism. You should see more emotional resilience, healthy responses to eco-anxiety, more empathy, compassion, tolerance, openness, awareness and support for those experiencing or caring for someone with a mental health issue. And you should see improved mental health outcomes by minimizing the barriers to early intervention. You should see fewer students experiencing maladaptive responses to eco-anxiety, fewer incidents of aggression and bullying, fewer stigmas, stereotypes, fears, and misinformation surrounding mental illness, and fewer lives disrupted or school days missed due to mental health issues. In summary, developmental bibliotherapy can nurture adolescent well-being by activating the default mode network, by cultivating core confidence, by reframing eco-anxiety, and by demystifying mental health. Developmental bibliotherapy can be tailored for individuals or groups, is simple, easy, and cost-effective, has numerous proven short and long-term benefits, and is likely to be supported by parents. The limitations are that it does require cooperation and desire on the part of the reader, skillful guidance on part of the therapist or librarian, teacher, social worker or facilitator, but the benefits are many and the drawbacks are few. But why do students need teacher librarians? Librarians are trusted. They're easy to find, they don't set tests, they are good at asking the right questions and good at listening to answers. Librarians love talking about books, and librarians know young adult literature. Librarians are non-judgmental. They know about trigger warnings and can identify reading patterns. Librarians are helpful, sharing and caring. Students can be different people in the library. Students consider the library to be a safe place, but also almost every student will have met the school librarian at least once. On my website, readforlife.today, you can find some further reading and the reference list for this presentation, book lists and lesson plans, and activities and printables for use in your developmental bibliotherapy programs. Some recommended reading, but also have a look at Book Riot, keep aware of book awards, make sure you keep up with your networks, and do check out the local libraries. By ignoring the importance of stories in the development of young people, we are failing in our responsibility as educators to prepare our students with the skills they will need to face the future and the ability to effectively manage their own mental health and well-being. Last word from Joseph Gold. Reading is the development of a mental process for managing all other material, life experience and relationships. Unless we change our educational bias, we will produce well-educated technocrats, well-equipped to destroy our planet, but ignorant of the nature of the loss.